Ready for a podcast?
I am.
Okay. All right. Hello and welcome to Learning the Law, a podcast about all things legal with a focus on current events, where we try to teach you things in 1 hour. My name is Ashley, aka Phoenix Nymphy, and my co-host, who is the man of the hour, is my husband, Ron.
Hello.
This podcast is purely educational and should not be taken as legal advice. This podcast does not create an attorney-client relationship. This podcast is based on his interpretation of relevant law. Any opinions expressed are the opinions of the individuals making them and do not reflect the opinions of any firm, company, or other individuals. Ron is a licensed practicing attorney in the state of California.
Yes, since 1999.
I love that you say that with every podcast.
I know. It's in case someone forgot.
In case someone forgot.
I'm old.
Well, I mean, this isn't really sequential, these things. So, I mean, you know, somebody might listen to this one and then listen to episode 1. So there you go. Like, it's not really sequential.
Right.
So we're running a little behind today because Ron had work and work kind of
I just got out of a 7-hour deposition, and it would have gone longer had not the legal limit of a deposition in California be 7 hours. So,
well, at least you don't have to deposition that particular person anymore, I guess.
no.
So last week you said that you wanted to talk about filibusters.
Yes, because it is a hot topic going on right now in DC.
Yes.
And people have asked me, what is a filibuster?
Right. So I have 2 questions. So I have done no notes this week. It's you who did all the notes because I'm learning along with everybody else. So 1, what is a filibuster?
A filibuster, in a nutshell, is a way that the minority in the Senate can obstruct or block majority agenda legislation.
So what's the point of that? Okay, that doesn't make sense to me, because if there's a majority and the voters have voted for this, shouldn't the majorities be the one that leads it?
If you were a founding father, they would say yes. The filibuster is not found anywhere in the Constitution.
So when was it implemented?
Initially, I need to scroll up. The filibuster was first implemented theoretically 1789.
Okay.
It became possible, though that it was never used. 1806, the Senate modified the rules to allow for a filibuster. Originally, and now to get back how a filibuster works, if something comes to a vote in the Senate, you only need a majority to let it pass. However, in order for it to come to a vote, you need what's called closure. And the rules at the moment allow for closure only after 3/5 of the Senate vote for closure.
So if you have a 50-50 split, you're not going to get anything
Done.
Correct.
Not unless you can get 10 senators from the other side to agree with you.
Okay.
Now, originally in the Constitution, there was only certain things that needed what's called a supermajority in order to pass. One was expelling a member of Congress.
What's the supermajority?
2/3. As we'll see in the upcoming impeachment trial, you need 2/3 of the Senate to convict.
Okay, so
67%.
So that's still, when you have a 50-50 Senate, that's still a problem.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, the original founding fathers only contemplated majority wins in the votes.
Okay.
And James Madison, who is the author of our Constitution,
can you scooch over a little bit so you're in the, there you go.
Yeah. Said this in the Federalist Paper 58. And this will sound old because, it's Old English. In all cases where justice or general good might require new laws to be passed or active measures to be pursued, the fundamental principle of free government would be reversed. It would no longer be the majority that would rule. The power would be transferred to the minority, which in essence, the filibuster does. And this is where he was arguing against any kind of rule like that. Were the defensive privilege limited to particular cases, an interested minority might take advantage of it to screen themselves from equitable sacrifices to the general weal, or in particular emergencies to extort unreasonable indulgences.
That's essentially what filibusters do, is it extorts indulgences.
Yes. The author of our Constitution warned us against exactly what the filibuster does.
And that's exactly, I'm sorry, but that's what Republicans do.
Yes.
Republicans extort constantly.
They obstruct constantly. Unfortunately, although Democrats have that same power, they don't have the fortitude to use it.
They don't have the leadership, like what we discussed in the last episode. They don't have the leadership that the Republicans do, which makes sense, which Jayhawk, one of the viewers from last week, made a very valid point. They don't have, because liberals think, free, open mind, free mind. So there's not really that leadership there, whereas conservatives are all about traditions. And so the mindsets kind of lead towards less concise leadership, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is a downfall of being a liberal, or being and I'm going to say liberal, not Democrat, because you can be a Democrat without being really liberal.
Look at the senator from West Virginia. I think his name's Joe Manchin. He's a conservative Democrat. And everyone says there's no such thing. Oh, no, there is.
Yeah, absolutely.
He may be socially liberal, but physically,
he's conservative.
He is way conservative.
Which is actually, which also brings about like the whole concept of we need more than a two-party system. Like a two-party system is so outdated at this point because of the fact that you have one small minority group of people is able to stop everything and anything from happening. Look how often they did it during Obama.
Constantly.
And the filibuster doesn't even work the way it used to. I do know that the filibuster, you used to have to stand up and talk and couldn't leave, couldn't go to the bathroom, nothing until, can you actually go into detail a little bit about that? Because I'm not exactly sure why they had to talk for so long.
Because that was the rule they implemented. The first filibuster occurred in 1837. Not for, what is that, almost 50 years after the ratification of the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
And then during the 1800s, it was only used sparingly. And let's see. Yeah, it's an obstructionist thing. And you would have to get up on the Senate floor And there's a movie called Mr. Smith Goes to Washington that illustrates the way filibuster used to be. And
Great movie, Jimmy Stewart, fantastic film, highly recommend.
As long as you had the floor, you could talk about anything.
Right.
In fact, there's Senator Strom Thurmond back in 1957. He filibustered the Civil Rights Act because, well, he was racist and a member of the KKK. He read the Bible.
Wait. See, I remember that story, but I didn't know what he was filibustering in.
Yeah, he was filibustering the Civil Rights Act.
Yeah, well, okay. And I don't like that story anymore.
He got up there for 24 hours and 18 minutes reading the Bible.
So
you can't take a break. You can't go to the bathroom.
Right, but why at the end? Okay, so my question is, can't they just try to pass it the next day? Or is there only so many?
He has to stand there during the night and talk.
No.
If he leaves the floor, the next senator gets to talk.
Right. But why is there, okay, I guess, time limit on is there a time on the voting? Like, is it to...
No, every senator gets to have their time on the floor to debate.
Okay, so I guess people just give up? Is that the whole point?
Eventually, once everybody has their time,
yeah,
there's going to be a vote. Because there is no more debate.
So so what's the goal then of standing there for so long?
Just to delay the inevitable. That's the way the filibuster used to work.
Okay, so then what's the point of even having a filibuster then?
Because you could go to your constituents and say, I tried. But they passed it anyway. But now the rule is you don't have to get up and do anything. You just it's called a virtual filibuster.
It's so easy.
Right. And so
it's I did read that it's more often used now than it's ever been in the past because of the ease at which it can be used and the fact that all it is I don't agree with this. And that's it.
Right.
And I don't understand why it was the Republicans that voted for that, isn't it?
For the filibuster originally?
To change it.
Yes.
To change it to make it so easy to stop. When was it implemented? When was this change instituted?
The latest change?
Yeah, the most recent change, the virtual filibuster.
Back in the 60s.
Wow.
Civil Rights Act. And that might have been the Southern Democrats, which are currently the Southern Republicans.
The Tea Party, which is currently, I would argue that Southern Democrats back then are the current Tea Party Republicans now. Because they are the extremist.
Oh, I don't think the Southern Republicans are that moderate.
No. Tea Party Republicans are the fascist.
Right. They're the extreme fascist. Right. A lot of just Southern GOP people are authoritarian.
What's the difference?
They want to keep in power for the sake of keeping in power. The fascists want to keep in power in order to lord that power over the general population.
But they still want to keep power.
It's a fine line.
It's the same thing.
It's one thing to want to be a senator because it comes with prestige and notoriety and everybody knows who you are. It's another thing to want to be a senator in order to keep, for example, voting from Black people or throwing Jewish people in a gas chamber.
But if you're voting along the lines as those fascists, you're a fascist. regardless of whether or not you want to be a senator for the prestige, you're a fascist.
Yeah. You're a de
Because
facto fascist.
You are de facto just as bad as the extremist.
Yeah.
Because you're, instead of actually voting for things, you're filibustering for no reason other than I just don't want change.
In 2008, at Mitch McConnell's home, I believe in Tennessee, I'm not sure if he's Tennessee or Kentucky, but I think he's Tennessee. There was a meeting between all the GOP senators, and they said,
No, I think Graham is
Graham's Carolina.
Okay, hold up. I think McConnell is Kentucky, and I want to double check. I don't think he's Tennessee. Hello, just tell me where he's the Republican Party from.
You'll say something like R. Ken.
Yeah, Kentucky. Yeah.
Okay.
It's Kentucky.
Well, they had a meeting of all the GOP senators at his house when Obama had been elected. And at that meeting, they basically said, we can't let him do anything. Even if it's good for the country, we can't let him have a legacy.
How is that
We'll
legal?
never be in power again.
How is that legal?
Because they use the rules of the Senate.
Right, but if you're having, I mean, isn't that kind of like staging a coup? If you're having these secretive meetings about stopping and blocking anything from happening of the current president, isn't that kind of staging a coup? Or like, what's the difference?
Well, they're not. Another fine line. They are not supplanting and replacing the president with their own rule. They're using the rules already in place to exert what political power they do have according to the Constitution and the rules of the Senate.
So they're using the loopholes that exist that they put in place.
Yeah.
Wow. Lawyers are horrible.
Yeah.
Not you. I love you. You're a good lawyer.
Too. That's why I'm a poor lawyer.
Oh my God. Are you serious?
Yeah.
So.
And that's why we're talking about the filibuster. Biden wants unity, but he's not going to get it out of this Senate. They are going to obstruct everything, as you can already see with his COVID relief bill. 10 senators, and make no mistake, there's a reason there were 10 senators, because that's what you need to get past a filibuster. 10 GOP senators came to him and said, 1/3 of what you want we'll agree to, and then we'll pass it. That's not unity. That's the minorities.
But they're crying they want unity. They're crying for unity.
They don't want unity.
All this is doing is just making me angry right now.
It should.
So what can we do to change that?
Elect more non-GOP senators.
Okay, so how do we educate the people in those areas that vote those people? Because, like, just going to call them out. My family are Republicans. My grandmother wasn't, which is funny, considering
she lived during the Depression, didn't she?
She did.
There you go. Republicans did not want to help the workers during the Depression.
Now, I will say Grandmama also voted Democrat because she's always voted Democrat. She didn't actually look into politics as in depth as she should have. But so I have, not all my family members are I actually have family members that are all across the board. But there are some family members who are, part of the GOP and huge parts of the GOP. How do you have those conversations with people like that who are just obviously you can't do that on social media. It needs to be a face-to-face conversation.
Right.
So how can you explain, aside from calling senators, calling your representatives, aside from volunteering and because I mean, we volunteered for Bernie and donated to Bernie and stuff when he was running. There's only so much you can do with that.
Right.
So you can understand why people just feel devastated and just so done. Because
you need to educate that red base as to what actually goes on in this country.
But they won't hear it.
Right, because they only get their news from one source.
So
it's unfortunate, but you need some very wealthy people to start media outlets in those areas to counter Newsmax and Fox News.
Yeah. See, that is so the filibuster. Could we call our representative and be like, I don't want this? I want you to get rid of the filibuster?
Yeah. Problem is, you've got Biden who doesn't want to get rid of it.
Really?
Yeah, he doesn't want to get rid of it.
Well, Biden is also old school.
Then you've got the senator in the Democratic senators, I believe, in Arizona and West Virginia that say they will not vote to get rid of the filibuster.
So while it's illegal, it's unconstitutional.
No, it's not unconstitutional.
Oh.
Because the Senate get to pass rules to govern themselves.
Oh, so this is not part of the... Okay.
It's power that the Senate has given to themselves. It's not power that's given to them per the Constitution.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it is constitutional because the Senate has the ability to do that.
And at one time, the House of Representatives had to filibuster too.
But they got rid of it?
They got rid of it because everything comes to a logjam. Because while a filibuster is going on originally, you couldn't do any other business.
And now you can still do business.
In the 20th century, they passed a rule that you can do two things at the same time. So now you can filibuster and
try and pass this and this.
Pass this or appoint a judge. That kind of thing.
So that's frustrating.
Yeah. It either needs to be getting rid of, and this is my opinion in the show notes, it either just needs to be getting rid of, and if the Republicans take back the Senate in 2022, then they get to pass whatever they want to pass.
Right.
But they pretty much did that anyway, even with the Democrats having a filibuster.
Yeah.
Because Democrats don't know how to use power.
Jesus, man.
The Democrats will not pass any of the important parts of Biden's agenda as long as the filibuster is here. You should at least have to old school it, get up,
do you
talk
think if
forever,
it was like
pee your pants if you need to.
Do you think if it was like the old filibuster, it would be used a lot less often?
Yes.
And at that point, would it then be worthy to keep it around if it was the way it was?
Yes, I would say yes.
So do you think, so then, in your opinion, does it have a place?
It has a place in that the minority has a say, and they can make a record of why this particular legislation is bad.
Right.
But eventually the majority, who the people voted in,
should have the final say. So And see, and I'm okay with that. Yes, please give the minority, obviously they were voted by constituents. They should have a say-so and stuff like that. But at the same time, they should not have the ability to completely disrupt everything and stop everything.
And this is something else a lot of people don't know. Originally in the Constitution, we did not vote for senators.
They were appointed, weren't they?
They were appointed by the governor of the state.
Governor, I knew that. I actually remember that fact.
Yeah.
I also think that our Senate needs to expand, personally. And I know we've discussed that before, but 2 representatives for a state like California does not properly represent that state.
Right. Each one of California's senators represents about 18 million people.
Right.
Each one of Wyoming's senators represents about 200,000 people.
Right. I personally think the Senate should be like the House, where you get so many, it's based off of population.
The reason it was done this way was, and we'll go back to it, slavery.
Right, because there's more people in the South due to...
So you had to balance it out between the non-slave states and the slave states. And every time they admitted more states to the Union, they had to admit them in pairs.
So what you're saying is the way the Senate exists now is truly and utterly racist.
It's systemic racism.
It is systemic racism at the root, and it needs to be changed.
Right. There's really no purpose for the Senate. The House of Representatives, which is the people's house.
See, that's actually now you got my brain thinking, does Parliament have a Senate?
No.
No, they're all the House.
There's a House of Lords in the UK. And the purpose of the House of Lords is to protect cowardly ministers of Parliament. If there's something that is controversial or is going to lose the majority votes, they can always get one of the lords in the House to write up some legislation and put it to a vote.
But every other country that uses a parliamentary system, it's just a House of Representatives.
Right.
And it's thousands.
And the majority party elects one of their members to be the prime minister.
So the people don't vote for the prime minister?
No.
That's not the same in the UK, though. The people vote for the prime minister in the UK.
I believe so.
I believe the UK is kind of a myriad of parliamentary and the American system.
Well, they were the original.
Well, yeah. See, I would be okay with getting rid of the Senate and everybody be part of the House of Representatives, and that's how you run everything.
See, originally, members of the House, there was about one representative for every 30,000 citizens. Currently, each representative represents about, I think it's 3 million.
Yikes. So even the House needs to expand.
Yeah, you can't have adequate representation for people when one person represents 3 million.
So basically, okay.
My math may be off, but...
So basically, what you're saying is, based off of our population, our Congress really needs to expand.
Oh, yeah.
Big time. And the reason it doesn't expand is because it's rooted in racism.
Yeah, basically.
So
systemic racism, not direct racism, but yeah.
Right. Because what started the way it's set up, and the reason why it's set up, was racism, direct racism. And because we kept with it, it's still racist.
Yeah.
it's still racist. And the fact that there's no women represented in the Senate now that Kamala, is it Kamala? Kamala. I want to say her name right. Yeah. Now that Kamala Harris is vice president, we have no women in the Senate. None.
Are you talking Democrats? Because the GOP has Susan Collins from Maine, and they have Lisa Murkowski from Alaska. Those are the ones just off the top of my head.
And they're white.
Yeah.
Right.
The GOP, of course they're white.
So there's no, maybe it's women of color that's represented.
I want to say the Democratic senator from Arizona is a white.
Okay, so then it's people of, okay. I read so much, I forget what everything that I read if I don't write it down. Like, and I've had I've had an extremely productive work day, and I have been very busy today. But yeah, there's no women of color now that she's vice president, which is very, very sad. But the House has now has, still not enough, because I mean, I know we're getting off topic, but half of the people in this country are women, and it is not reflected properly in our Congress. I'm sorry. We need more women in our Congress.
1, they have to run.
They do.
2, they have to be voted for.
I know.
And 3, the party machinery needs to fund them.
Right. The RNC and DNC is a whole other thing. The DNC stole that from Bernie. Oh, I'm gonna have to bleep that out.
It's true.
No, I'm gonna have to bleep out the bad word. Anyway, so okay, back to the So I had one more question about, because we're theorizing if we got rid of Senate and just expanded the House, that would open up for more parties. That would kind of expand the two-party system. It would have to. You wouldn't have a choice.
Sort of. You would need a concentration enough in an area, for example, the Green Party. You would need enough of them in an area to actually elect a Green Party candidate.
Well, it would be like, so in Germany, they're Democrats. They have what did that girl say? They have Democrats, but they're split in two, and they have Republicans, and they're split in two.
You're seeing a split in the GOP right now.
Yes, very much so.
You're going to have your extreme GOP, and you're going to have your moderate GOP.
Which I would love if they just let it split.
You have a split in the Democrats right now, too. You have the progressive wing of the party, and then you have the old people, Democrats.
Yeah.
Who are somewhat afraid of change.
They're the more moderate. What is it? She called it? I want to say she called it the biblical, or she actually called it the religious democratic or something like that. Oh my God, I'm gonna have to look that up.
Who called it that?
It was this girl on TikTok. She was explaining Germans' parties and stuff like that. Germany's government is set up,
and when no one gets a majority in that kind of parliamentary system, you have to make alliances.
Yeah.
Israel is the same way.
But why not let it split? What's the problem with letting it split?
Because the NC and the RNC
lose control,
make a whole lot of money. They control a whole lot of wealth. And they would lose control of that wealth.
Well, now we're starting to go down a rabbit hole. So we're going to reel this in, because we could go down that rabbit hole and talk about corporate money and yada, yada, yada. But this is a law podcast, and we're discussing the filibuster and the legalities of the filibuster right now. And We also want to talk about the impeachment in Myanmar. So I want to ask one more question about the filibuster or about the Senate thing, because like my mind is just like all over the place. The checks and balances, would that affect how checks and balances work?
The filibuster?
No. If we were to get rid of the Senate and just expand the House of Representatives and just all of Congress is just House of Representatives, would that affect how the checks and balances system works in this country? Or would it still be the same because Congress is both Senate and House of
any legislation that's put forth for the president to sign has to be reconciled between the Senate and the House.
Oh, so it actually could streamline it.
Yes. It would get rid of a lot of gridlock.
Huh. So because I mean, the one thing that I really, really remember is how the checks and balances system works and how ideally it's supposed to work. And it is not bad. I mean, unless you have a president who is able to appoint 3 judges, because that's definitely going to cause issues. But
they've already
proven that they're not going to align with him just because he was the president
that nominated them. Yeah. Once a judge is given a lifetime appointment, they have free reign to do what they truly want to do.
I'm sorry. I don't think that should be a lifetime appointment. And I love Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and she was phenomenal. And I look up to that woman. She had a amazing life, and I, admired that woman. But that shouldn't be a life appointee thing.
Here's why I will disagree with that. The law needs to be stable. And if you replace judges every 7, 10, 12 years, there's going to be new interpretations of the law. So for this decade, you'll have abortions legal. The next decade, when you replace those judges, abortions won't be legal. 10 years after that, abortions are legal again.
Okay, that's fair. Okay.
Now,
you don't see that argument.
You don't have to make all federal judges lifetime, but
just the Supreme Court justices.
The Supreme Court and the appellate courts should be lifetime. Your regular federal district judge, who gets overruled most of the time anyway, they could have a 7-year term. Federal bankruptcy judges have a 14-year term.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, all right. That's
I'm going to have a drink out of your glass.
That's a fair reason for the judges to have a lifetime appointment. All right, I'll concede. I'll concede that is, I didn't think about that. That makes sense. So was there anything else that you wanted to talk about as far as the filibuster goes?
Just another, in my notes, an opinion.
Yeah.
You already had 2 Democratic senators say they will not vote for it. Vote to get rid of the filibuster.
They'll vote to get rid of it?
They will not.
They won't vote to get rid of it.
So you will only have 48 Democratic votes. And you can change this rule by majority, according to Senate rules. Okay.
I mean, but Biden doesn't want to get rid of it anyway.
Right. But what they didn't say is that they wouldn't modify the filibuster. And so those 2 senators need to be approached with having it be the old school, get up, pee your pants.
Take a bottle with you and pee in it.
read the Bible, read Playboy magazine, whatever you want to do. That's how the filibuster should work. It is too easy, too simple, and used too much now. And I will get off my opinion soapbox with that.
So, speaking of, I mean, we might as well just keep going with this it kind of falls under this, the impeachment proceedings. The trial starts, I thought it was February 9th.
It's the week of February 8th.
Oh, okay. So
he's replacing lawyers left and right.
Yeah.
Because he wants, according to what I've read, he wants to use as his defense that the election was stolen. And none of the competent attorneys want to argue that.
And one of the attorneys is it one of his attorneys? Who's the attorney that's actually being tested in Georgia right now for competency? Wasn't that one of his attorneys?
It may be one of his attorneys. I don't know if it's one of his impeachment attorneys. But his main attorney right now, and this is telling, is the attorney that was defending Jeffrey Epstein.
Yikes.
Notorious child molester who conveniently committed suicide in a cell. Also a good friend of Trump's.
Lynn Wood.
Oh, yeah, Lynn Wood. He was a Trump supporter, Trump attorney.
Okay, but he's not a current attorney for Trump.
No, but he still goes off on these tangents.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Georgia State Bar is checking him out for his competency right now.
Yeah, as they should.
That's
same with Representative Green.
Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's something we can address next week, actually.
Yeah,
how to get rid of a senator.
Or representative. She's a representative.
Yeah, that's right. So what he's being tried on is inciting insurrection. Why is he not being tried for anything else? Why is it just inciting insurrection? Because
they ramrodded this through. They wanted to do it quickly before he left office.
Okay. Why?
Because if they did it while he left office, while he was still in office, there's a myriad of things that would result from it.
Okay.
Such as he would lose his pension. He would lose his Secret Service protection. He would lose his travel expenses, which are like $1 million a year he gets.
I don't know that that's true, because Ross shared an article that some of that stuff is not accurate.
Okay. Just from what I've read.
Okay.
But now that he's out of office, the only effect the impeachment is going to have, if he got convicted, which we all know he's not going to, because the GOP drinks the Trump Kool-Aid, would be to vote afterwards that he can never hold federal office again.
So that's what we're hoping for, is to just keep him from being able to run again.
Right.
So
because the whole purpose of the impeachment is to get people out of office before they can do any more damage.
Right.
So there's a controversy as to the constitutionality of this trial to begin with, since he's no longer in office.
Right, but you want to be able to keep him from being able to run, so you should still have the trial, correct? So,
in my opinion,
yes,
because the articles of impeachment were passed in the House before he left office. My opinion, that requires a trial.
Okay.
A lot of legal scholars are saying no, the matter is now moot.
But you don't want him to be able to run office. So how can you stop him from being able to run office?
According to legal scholars, you can't. There shouldn't be a trial.
But it's not like it's a special case or anything. It's the president of the United States, former president of the United States, that caused a lot of problems.
Yeah. So basically, what you need to do,
So there's
If
really
you
no
want
answer to whether or not it's constitutional. That is actually hot.
It's a hot button topic. It would go up to the Supreme Court.
Interesting.
But I don't think the Supreme Court hasn't been approached or they've denied looking at it. And since it starts next week, they're going to have a trial anyway.
Right. Wild, man. So, what's this New York Times article that? Okay, 3 ways Trump's impeachment is different. So he was impeached before he left office.
Yes.
So that first off, this article starts off wrong because it says he's the first president ever to be impeached after leaving office.
Right.
Did they mean the trial?
Yes.
Okay.
That is fault of the
writer.
The writer. Yes. Now there's a judge for the U.S. Court of Appeals, Fourth Circuit, that has said the very concept of constitutional impeachment presupposes the impeachment, conviction, and removal of a president who is at the time of his impeachment an incumbent in the office from which he is removed.
What does that mean?
That means he needs to be a sitting president.
Okay.
In order for the trial to go.
Okay.
And this is an appellate court judge.
Oh, yikes. That's like right before Supreme Court.
That is. And he further goes on to say, indeed, that was the purpose of the impeachment power to revoke from office a president or other civil official because you can impeach judges.
So what's the point of having an impeachment if you can't remove him from office, though? Like, the House impeached him, but he never was removed from office.
Right. So the effect of him being convicted in the Senate, and the only effect is going to be a vote on whether or not he could hold future positions in the federal government.
Right. But my thing is, if the House impeached him the first time, why was he not removed?
Because are you talking the first impeachment?
Okay, let's go back to the first impeachment.
Yep.
According to this, the way an impeachment works, if you read it like that, it says that they have an impeachment is literally to remove them from office. He was impeached.
Right. And impeachment actually is a 2-step process.
And that's what they fail to explain.
The House brings the charges. The Senate has the trial.
Okay, so then he wasn't actually impeached.
Yes.
He was half impeached.
Impeached means that the charges have been brought against you.
Okay.
Being guilty is what the Senate does.
Okay. Then why can't you just call it what it is and say he's got charges brought on him? Is it because it's a president and you get special terminology because you're a president?
Yeah, you get special terminology because
it's political.
You've been impeached.
Okay. You know, charges get brought against people all the time, but they aren't found guilty. Are they impeached?
Only if the House brings articles of impeachment against them.
Stop. No, like if you or I had charges against us in a court of law and we were found not guilty, would we be considered impeached?
No.
Okay, then what's the difference?
We don't hold a political office.
Okay, so impeach is literally for political office.
Yes.
The term, that's it.
That's it.
So literally all that was done was he had charges brought against him twice.
Yes.
As a president, as a sitting president.
Yes.
And so the trial that's actually going to happen. Wow. Okay. So then the point of impeaching really is superfluous when you have a Senate that's not going to do anything.
Correct.
Okay. So now my question on that is, you have all of these charges and these cases that are being filed against him in like New York.
Yes.
So could they then charge him for inciting a riot?
No, because the riot occurred in DC.
So how could you get him for charges of inciting a riot if the Senate is not going to charge him for it?
Quite simply because it was in DC, you can't.
Wow.
And
I mean, isn't inciting a riot kind of a big deal?
Yeah.
Okay, and he's not going to get punished for it.
He incited more than a riot. He incited an insurrection.
And he's not going to get in trouble for it.
He's not going to get in trouble for it.
Is anything going to happen to him?
No.
He's not going to get in trouble for anything?
No. Because the GOP senators have drunk his Kool-Aid, and they are afraid that if they vote against him or vote guilty...
Even though the people that were there to kill them?
Yeah. They don't care. The only one that cares, the only one I think that will have the fortitude to vote to impeach him again is Mitt Romney.
Which says a lot because he is... Ugh.
And the reason Mitt Romney has the fortitude to do that is because he's pretty much primary proof. He is a high-ranking member of the Latter-day Saint Church in Utah.
So you mean to say that there's going to be absolutely no justice served for what happened on January 6th?
No. It will not be. You don't even hear the GOP senator saying, we need to find out who killed the police officer. He has totally been forgotten in all of this. There may be some people investigating that haven't forgotten him.
They're more
but he's already out of the
about
press.
The QAnon shaman and crap like that. And no,
Yeah. People are so infatuated with celebrity. This is the result. You have a fake businessman, fake billionaire, gets elected, makes money off his businesses. They made Jimmy Carter sell his peanut farm, but they didn't make Donald Trump get rid of any of his businesses. He controlled everything still. And this is the kind of crap that eventually revolutions start over.
I'm crying right now.
I know.
That's not right.
No, and everybody who says it's not constitutional to try him right now just means that if you ever want to incite an insurrection or you ever want to rebel against the United States, just make sure you start the rebellion
at the end of your term.
Yeah, at the end of your term.
So speaking of which, Myanmar. No,
Yes.
That's not U.S. politics, but that's literally...
This is a nutshell of Myanmar. Tell me if it sounds familiar. A group gets together, says that the election is fraud without any evidence. They then...
By the way, for those of you who are not aware, Myanmar is an Asian country in between Thailand and Bangladesh.
Yeah.
It's a Southeastern Asian.
It used to be known as
Southern Asian.
Burma.
Yeah, it used to be known as Burma. They speak Burmese there, along with other Asian languages. They're also near Laos.
Yes. So what you had was this group, in this case, military, go arrest all the duly elected officials and put themselves in their place, promising that they'll have an election in a year. All based on that the elected officials did not look into the election fraud, of which there is no evidence. take a look at what happened to us on January 6th, people are fired up. Trump fires them up. And they try to undo an election based on fraud, of which there is no credible evidence. 60 lawsuits, including lawsuits brought before Trump-appointed lawyers.
You mean judges?
I mean, yeah, Trump-appointed judges found no credible evidence. And the only difference between what happened in Myanmar and what happened between us is that the military did not jump in. Although a lot of those insurrectionists were veterans and former military.
Also, a lot of those people, a lot's coming out that several of them who've been arrested didn't even vote. They were...
Why am I not surprised?
They were in an insurrection for voter fraud, and they didn't even vote. According to their voter registration, they didn't even vote.
Right.
Which you can get. You can go look up somebody's voter registration. So, yeah, I don't know how many it is. Those are allegations that are coming out now.
And according to an article I read, all the Parler is back online. A lot of the, and they're not tweets, I guess they're parls.
Whatever. Social media post.
Have taken strength in their positions because of Myanmar.
So Myanmar is actually giving them optimistic.
Right. If it can happen, it can happen. We just need to make it happen.
That's scary.
Yeah.
And the people and the fact that there's going to be no justice.
No justice is just going to embolden them all.
Yeah. So that's where we're going to end the podcast. We're going to end it on the very depressing, sad note of the state of American politics. And this is why it is important to stay informed and why we're doing this podcast, to educate you on how our laws actually work and the fact that they don't work for us if we're not involved with them. We have to be involved. And so, all I'm going to say is go watch AOC's Instagram live post about her experience during all of that. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. People almost died, and there's going to be no justice for it.
People did die.
I'm sorry, you're right. My apologies. People died. And there are people who the trauma affected them so much they committed suicide later.
2 officers that I know of.
So these are the people that you vote for. You, me, us. These are people that we vote for. They're making these decisions. We have to hold them accountable. We have to. If you want things to be better, I know that it feels devastating. And after that, that makes me go, why am I even trying? I understand that response. Don't let that be it, though. Take that and say, I got to make a change. I got to help this happen. And I think that's a great way to kick off this. We're February 2nd, and we are in Black History Month. And I think that is a great sentiment to end with, because they haven't. You can't stop fighting. And it's evident in the Black Lives Movement and and just people of color and their lives. Like, it's evident. You can't stop. You have to keep pushing. You have to keep holding people accountable.
And next week, we'll discuss how to get rid of a sitting representative. Yes,
we'll talk about how to get rid of a sitting representative, because Marjorie Taylor Greene is literally crazy and should... I will say the only reason that she is a representative is because she ran unopposed, because the person that was running against her ended up dropping out for some reason. And so there was nobody to come in and fill in that slot before it was, the
deadline was over.
Yeah, before the deadline was up. So that's how she got that seat. She won by default. We can't let happen. I'll have to mute that too. And with that, I thank you so much for listening to Learning the Law. If you like this podcast and want to hear more, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and share in all your favorite places. You can find it hosted on Twitch at twitch.tv/PhoenixNymphy. Use the hashtag Learning the Law on TikTok and other social media platforms to follow more. You can find Ron on Twitter at NecroKijo and Ashley on most social media platforms at PhoenixNymphy. If you have any questions, please tweet, comment, or email us at twolazydogsmedia@gmail.com. This has been a Two Lazy Dogs production.
Bye, everyone.